evening and welcome to the Gallant Few podcast. This week we are doing the English Premier League roundup. Sadly, we don't have Mason with us this evening, so yours truly, Jamie Royals, will be hosting tonight. I've got the other two guests. I've got Graham Campbell and Colin Graham. How's things?
Yeah, good mate. Thought I'd make my appearance because Bournemouth got scudded.
Yep, that's definitely sticking with you until the end of the season. Now that one. Colin, how's the revision on Match of the Day went?
Much better than my revision for the for the Rangers results. So this is a welcome distraction yet again. So not good to be on.
Good man. Thank you. As I said, we don't have Mason with us this morning, so I'm going to host. And what we'll do is want to keep it nice and simple and really just run through the most recent roundup of results. There was a few games missing due to the FA Cup, but we'll fill the time up, obviously, with other things that have been going on. And I don't think we can start anywhere else apart from the Friday night game. There's not been too many Friday night games that can be talked about in this context, but we had an absolute stomper with Arsenal 3 and Southampton 3. Um, bit of a turning point in the league, I would say. Graham, what do you think?
Well, absolutely, but I guess the turning point started 2 weeks before when they dropped their 2-goal lead at Anfield. They dropped their 2-goal lead at the London Stadium. If you're a betting man, you've got to be all over Arsenal games with drawing both teams to score right now, though, because they're great value to watch. And Friday was no different. It was one of those where I've got to say it. Look, obviously as a neutral, but I was off my seat. It's one of those games where if you are a neutral, and everyone was wanting Arsenal to score for that turnaround. To be perfectly honest with you, it was a great watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Good way to start the weekend.
Yeah, I think it all started with Ramsdale, wasn't it? With that terrible that kick out that he did. There's something about these playing out from the back that's just not been working this season at all. Colin, what was your thoughts on Southampton? Little too late, or is there something going to happen on the back of this?
That's why this was so dramatic, because what it could have meant for both teams. It was quite bizarre at the end when the reaction for both sets of players. They both knew that wasn't enough. It could have been, and if Southampton get the 3 points there, they go up to 26 points. They're within touching distance, but 3 points behind Nottingham Forest, 4 points behind Everton, and that's not enough. Even if they did get the win, it was always going to be an uphill battle, and I didn't fancy them, but they are cemented. They're going down. I don't know if they'll be rock bottom, but they are going down. But that just, like Graham said, what a game of football. End to end stuff was like a basketball game, to be fair. Both teams went for it, but because what was on the line, two very different prizes they were playing for, but it just added to the drama.
Yeah.
I think as well when you look at the result for Southampton, I mean, look, of course, before the game, yes, they're taking their point. Everyone would say that, absolutely. When you're 3-1 up going into the 88th minute or whatever it was, when you look at how the results then worked out the weekend, from 14th place down, it was only Leicester that actually won. So, I mean, those 3 points would have been huge for Southampton. And again, you can just see that kind of bit of daylight at the bottom of the Premier League. Whereas, again, that puts them within one win of actually getting out the relegation zone. So, obviously, for them, it's, who knows, it might be a big point, but their form's definitely not showing that.
Yeah, and it is frustrating because if you go back a few weeks, they pulled a result off like this as well against Tottenham. Do you remember they were 3-0 down and they came back and pulled it back to 3 each in the last minute? And you think maybe there's something here, but then nothing happens again for about 4 weeks. And I would scream that this is very much arguably just the same. They've got an outstanding point that nobody would have given them at the beginning of the game. Probably not enough to kind of see them get back onto the track. I'm going to read this stat out though. That I want to call this out because I think the two of them have probably been two players of the season. Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli are the first two teammates aged 21 and under to record at least 20 plus goal involvements in a single Premier League season since Cristiano Ronaldo and Wayne Rooney played together. How good are these two? Graham, I'll go with you first.
Filth. Absolute filth. Let's face it, they are. Total class. Saka, obviously the England fans, rightfully so, really excited. He is by far and away probably the brightest talent next to Jude Bellingham. huge future for him. And yeah, him and Martinelli, I think it's a case of, for as long as Arsenal can hold on to them both, and I think that can be another reason that winning the Premier League, for example, could be such a massive thing for them. If they don't start winning trophies, is that then going to make it harder for you to retain your best players like those two? So yes, absolutely. I think for as long as they have those two players, I didn't know that stat. It's a great stat. And it shows how vital they are, and why, as long as they have them, Arsenal are always going to be sniffing around the top of the league.
Yeah, I do believe, I think it was about 2 months ago, I think the two of them did sign a new contract to keep him at the club. So they're definitely there for the future.
But you know what it's like with football players these days. Contracts, do they mean everything when it's like a ludicrous bid comes in, a player wants to leave and they go, nah. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. No. I'm just saying whether it's a year or two down the line, you don't know who's going to come looking for them.
Yeah. Colin, I've got a question for you. That one notable absentee from the Arsenal lineup has been in the last 3 weeks. That's William Saliba. Is that a coincidence, the results that they're pulling together from his form at the start of the season, or do you think it's a bit more than that?
I think it's a bit more than that. I mean, I think it's definitely, he definitely would have helped, and they are missing him. I wouldn't just put it down to that. I think there's been a nervousness around Arsenal. I think we've seen it at Liverpool when Liverpool started to get back into the game. A nervousness and a lack of game management. I think we said at Liverpool, and then Southampton as well, when Southampton came out winning in the jugular after they got the in. There was a nervousness at Arsenal to try and get back in. You seen Zinchenko try to gather everybody around, do a wee rally call, and it took him a while to get back into that. So I don't know how much he would have helped, to be honest. I think I've said this time and time again, it's the mentality at Arsenal. I think on the day they're good enough to match Man City over the distance. It's just been the difference is that Man City have the stones, they've got the muscle memory coming in and doing that. That I think has been the personality side of the game for Arsenal.
I think again also, we've talked about Arsenal's squad depth before. I think they do really lack depth and quality. I mean, that's the last 2 or 3 games when, not saying they're terrible players by any means, but when you look at for example, Man City and the players they're able to bring on Arsenal, bringing on Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah, that Reece Nelson, for example, is definitely a player they turn to when they're trying to, and he came on for Martinelli, for example. Now, I'm just saying the calibre of player coming off from Martinelli is not the same coming on in Reece Nelson. And I think that's something Arsenal need to address, whether they win the league or not. If they are going to mount title challenges season after season, they need to look at their quality and depth. That's something they absolutely need to look at.
See, where you're saying about Sacco and Martinelli potentially going, that'll come into their thinking. So I'm actually shocked. I didn't realise how young these boys were. I thought they were maybe around the 23, 24 mark. But if they're looking at where their career goes, they're going to look at where Arsenal see themselves. If they don't invest heavily in the squad and try and get that depth, why would you, if you're Sacco and Martinelli, why would you not go abroad to a contender? Somebody sees himself as a heavyweight. What Arsenal do in the transfer window will tell us, do they see themselves as a heavyweight for next year? If they don't invest in it, we'll know that they see this as an outlier season, and they'll just hope to punch above their weight again.
And I'll definitely die in this hill. The signing of Trossard show, for me, still, I will always say that shows they're not in the heavyweight elite level. That is not an elite level heavyweight signing. Don't care what anyone says.
I think the one thing that obviously affected them before the game is that they lost Xhaka in the build-up. They wouldn't have accounted for that, and they had to change the team around. So I think, Colin, you hit the nail on the head. The one thing that worries me about Arsenal is one thing I didn't think about up until the last few months is their game management. The game management has actually been poor. And you think if all these teams that have won leagues over the years, they see games through, whether they win them 1-0 and they fight dogged. The game management in the last 3 games alone has been quite shocking. I think I've seen a stat as well. Now, I'm sure Arsenal have let in the second most goals to to Nottingham Forest since February. That's not great, from a stat point of view. And I think, we'll come to Man City later on, but Arsenal's game management has obviously not been there. But okay, cool. Obviously, it was a cracking game for the neutral. Finished 3 each and set us up for the rest of the weekend. The next game was the early game on the Saturday, Fulham Leeds. Graham, what was your thoughts on that outcome?
Not surprised, to be honest. But again, another one of my probably most critical things on this pod is Javi Gracia and the bizarre kind of appointment of him. I think Leeds' last few results, specifically including this one, has highlighted just how poor an appointment it was, and I really think they're in trouble. They've now conceded like 13 goals in the last 3 games alone. It's not looking good. They really are in trouble.
I think I've seen a stat, and it was that they've conceded 62 goals this season and only scored 41. That's not great when it comes to Premier League quality, especially considering. And Leeds is a team that we associate with goals. They're fluid attacking. Sometimes they're end to end, but the amount of goals they've shipped this season is absolutely chronic.
Look, they've certainly got that kind of front 3 or 4 players that they've got is excellent, and I think I see a lot of Leeds fans on the socials specifically, a lot of them saying how, even forget Jesse Marsh, the sacking of Bielsa is still the biggest mistake they'll make in a long time. And it's true, you go from Bielsa, my opinion, you take a step down to Jesse Marsh, to go to Javi Gracia, such a strange one. Really, really bizarre. So, yeah, they'll only have themselves to blame if they do end up going down, to be honest. And right now, off the back of these 3 results, it's looking more likely.
Yeah. Colin, a word on Fulham. That's the second win in a row now. They've kind of got themselves back on track a little bit without Mitrovic. Good display from them, or was that always a guaranteed win for them on Saturday?
Aye, I've liked Fulham this year. Probably my only criticism is how much they've relied on Mitrovic, and there's not really been that backup. But it is hard when you play that focal number 9.
Yeah.
At any level in the Premier League, whether you're top 6 or the bottom 10, when you've got a main man number 9, it's hard to get the same quality, sit on the bench and wait for said number 9 to get injured or whatever. But no, I've liked Fulham this year. Maybe a bit premature, but I'm looking ahead to see what they do in the transfer window this year as well. Because I think we spoke a couple of weeks ago about Fulham and Brentford being in that category just behind Brighton. But Brighton maybe do have a wee bit more about them. And I think if Fulham and Brentford want to kind of push on into realistically challenging for the top 6, they do need a lot of investment while keeping their core, if you like. And I think a hard part of that is bringing in another striker. I don't know if they maybe try and change it up with, getting somebody who can maybe play off of Mitrovic or play alongside, or somebody even challenge him. So I think that's be good to see what they do in the summer. I think they will try and bring in another striker, incidentally.
I think 2 key things for me. I think one, if you go back to Fulham at the beginning of the season, anybody asking them what would be a sensible achievement, they all would have said to stay in the league, because they've been such a yo-yo team. They've actually done that and some this season, so I'm really chuffed that they've actually done that. And I think, Graham, you hit this pretty early as well when we started doing the podcast, is whether their manager will actually be there at the end of the season, because he's obviously, as you've always been a bit of a champion of him in terms of his quality that he has. He's done well with the players he's got, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of a summer Fulham have, whether he's there or not.
Yeah, I guess I've been a champion in the sense of he's clearly a decent manager, but not so in terms of his loyalty to his past clubs. And I guess that's
is loyalty even a thing these days?
Yeah, true. But I mean, I think this must be the longest he's spent at a club, nearing kind of 2 full seasons or whatever it's been. Which is why I'm actually kind of surprised that clubs such as Leicester, Leeds, etc., all bigger than Fulham, and all probably attractive jobs haven't went for Marco Silva. I think he potentially would leave.
Jump ship.
But yeah, I think he would, and I'm kind of surprised because I do think he's obviously shown he's more than good enough and capable of doing well in the Premier League, and he's done that in abundance with Fulham this season for sure.
Good. I'll move on to the next one. Surprising result for me, Palace versus Everton. Everton not been the greatest in terms of travellers this season, and Palace have kind of turned on the last few games with an absolute brickload of goals compared to where they were, a few weeks back. But this one finished 0-0. There was a red card for Mason Holgate, which obviously kind of worries them going into a defence, the defensive structure going forward. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin was back, which is probably a positive for them. Graham, what was your thoughts on that game?
Well, first of all, again, I think it's the second time I've maybe done this in the pod. I'd just like to apologise for Palace fans. They were on my coupon. They were even money this week, and they were the last team to do my coupon. So I did think it would be a really tight game, to be honest. I fancied Palace might scrape it. Got obviously very excited when they scored, but obviously it was ruled out for offside.
3 yards offside, wasn't it?
I don't think anyone can ever be absolutely bowled over and shocked when a Sean Dyche team keeps a clean sheet or it's a tight, close-knit game. So I think Palace, considering Super Roy Hodgson's game in, and whether that's three wins and a draw out his first 4 games, it's a no-brainer. They're taking that every day of the week, and they're well on their way to safety. But yeah, I guess I'm not overly shocked by the result. And it's probably a decent point for Everton.
Yeah, it's typical Roy Hodgson comes back out of retirement and gets manager of the month, wasn't it? It's pretty much nailed on for him. Colin, obviously my thoughts on Everton, but every time, I've called this out a couple of times, but every time they get a point, so does everybody else around them. What's your thoughts on them? Do you still see them getting out of this, or are they very much in the quagmire?
They're in the quagmire. I think it will be a narrow escape. I do still think Dyche will keep them up. I think they are going to rely on taking points off the teams around them. So the next 12 games, I'm pretty sure they've got Newcastle next. The game after that's a big one, Leicester. I don't think Leicester are out of the pictures yet, and then we're looking ahead to the end of the month. It's Wolves and Bournemouth. Everton will be there in the last game of the season, and they'll need a result. Out of all the teams, I do fancy when it gets to push come to shove, I'd fancy Everton to get a result, probably more than most. When it comes to I don't know. I'm not really basing that on Everton's performance. I'm really basing this on Sean Dyche. If I'm being honest, I'm probably going to get proved wrong. I find they'll narrowly escape the championship.
If memory serves me right, they went into the final game of the season last year and won 3-2 to stay up. So they've done it before. Just different managers this time.
It's a home game as well, at Bournemouth, and a home game against Bournemouth, who have been a bit up and down, a bit of yo-yo. Don't know where they'll be at that point, but I think if Bournemouth are in the dogfight at that point, I would fancy Everton in the last game of the season.
To being in the quagmire, as you call it. I mean, I've just had to giggle that. Other than Family Guy popping into my head.
Jamie said it. Jamie said it. I just repeated it to make it.
Apparently it's a saying.
Do I have to educate you, Per, on everything? This is ridiculous.
I don't know. I'm telling you, anyone.
The English language here.
God will be thinking, giggity.
We never get this shite with Mason host, I tell you.
I'll bring us on to the next one. So, Colin, you called out Leicester. They finally got a win. Scraped it, went 1-0 down to Wolves, who have just all of a sudden started scoring goals. But Leicester so Dean Smith gets his first 3 points. It was a big 3 points for them, wasn't it?
He's all laughed when I said, "No, what? I rate Dean Smith. I think he's a half-decent manager. I think he'll keep Leicester up." He's sitting giggled away, and now he's going to start looking like mugs. Big 3 points for Leicester. It really is. And they're just a just ahead of Everton, aren't they? Or the level in points, so tight down there. But I thought it was a strange time to sack Rodgers, but we all know there's maybe a 2-3 game where the teams get the new manager bounce, a 2-3 game period. So
Like
they
Hodgson
might have,
bounce, it's going to be cold now, isn't it?
aye, they might have timed it perfectly. To be honest, you know, they've got Leeds next and then Everton. It's if you get 4 points there, I think because the teams around them, they're all going to start taking points off each other. I think 4 points for the next 2 games, Leicester really changes the outlook. It doesn't save them, but it puts them in a much better position.
They had no Madison as well, which was a surprise. I'm not sure what happened there. I don't know if he's going to be fit for the next game. But there was no Harvey Barnes, who's been critical for them this season. But the talk is that he's actually back for the next game. Graham, do you still see Leicester staying down there, or do you see them getting out of this?
Yeah, I think they'll stay down there. I don't see them getting out with ease, so to speak. I think it will still be a fight. Obviously, the next 2 games are huge. I think when you look at the kind of 3 number 9s they started with, though, I mean, they've got good firepower when you had Vardy, Iheanacho and Daka all starting. I've always really liked Iheanacho. Something about him, I just think he is a really, really good player. And they've certainly got enough about them. Yep, a good win, especially when you're talking about lack of Madsen, etc. So I think they will. I think they'll stay up, yes, but I don't think it will be a plain sailing run.
Yeah, Wolves disappointing for them considering that they went ahead. But looking at the points now, they're out of it, aren't they? They're sitting on 34 points by now. They should be all right come the end of the season. Do you think?
No, I don't know.
think so.
What do you
think
think's the magic number this season? What do you
I
think is
think
the magic number?
40 is always a magic number, in it. They say, has anyone ever went down with 40?
Yeah, I think West Ham went down with 40. I think they were the first team to go down with 40 points. But I don't know. I think 37 is going to be the magic number.
Looking at Wolves,
for the season.
Next game, Palace at home. In the remaining 6 games, they've got Villa at home, who are in good form. They've got Man U and Arsenal away. I mean, I'm just saying, if we're saying 6 points, then it's there. I wouldn't say they're out it yet. Certainly, I think anyone from West Ham down, realistically, but I don't think West Ham are going to go down personally. But I think anything just from West Ham in 13th, but they do have a game in hand.
Yeah. I just think there's too many teams below them that are probably playing worse than them at the moment. That's probably about.
And you hit the nail in the head, Jamie. There, they found their shooting boots. That's the last 7 games they've scored in, and there's only been. I'm pretty sure there's only one. That's the second time in the 7 games they've only scored ones. They've been scoring twos. These the teams around them aren't they scoring as regular. So I think that'll, if they keep that absolutely magnificent trait at the bottom of the table, then they'll be okay.
Okay, cool. So another team that's down in the quagmire is Nottingham Forest. They were away to Liverpool. They were away to Liverpool. I'm going to call it an unlucky win, an unlucky loss, sorry for them, because they did get themselves back into the game twice unexpectedly. Even Nico Williams, coming back to haunt Liverpool, he's pretty much done nothing all season. He's not even had many starts. Not only does he get a start at Anfield, he also gets himself a bloody goal. But what was your thoughts on the highlights of that game, Colin?
It was quite a fun game to watch, wasn't it? From a neutral point of view, your ass would have been making buttons, but I quite enjoyed it. It is unlucky for Nottingham Forest to go. To go to Anfield, and I know Liverpool haven't been the most consistently greatest this season, but still Liverpool at Anfield to go and put in a performance like that and not even get a draw. 2 goals at Anfield, not even get a draw, and they did play quite well, so they took their goals well. That is unlucky, and that's the thing with these teams. They do try and they play with a wee bit more freedom because they see this as a free hit, and then maybe if they take that into the next 6 games, they might change something, but I don't see them doing that, and I don't see them getting out of the bottom 3. I think they'll stay in that bottom 3, and they will be joining the rest of the jobbers in the Championship.
Graham, a few words on Liverpool. They've obviously found the shooting boots again. They're getting key players back and getting key side. Diogo Jota as an example. He'd not scored in 12 months and he's scored 4 in 2 games. How deadly is he at the moment?
Yeah, he is. Look, you'd expect that. Liverpool have the biggest budget in the league. They have a class squad, class players. They've massively underachieved. It's been a shocking season for them, a shit show. And I think they'll be. Yeah, they're getting their shooting boots back on, but 5th or 6th is realistic, and it's a shocker. Let's face it. So really, regardless how they finish, regardless how good they finish, they could win the remaining games 5-6-0. I don't think they're going to get into the top 4. It's been a shambolic season.
And in terms, what do you make of this? So I've seen a lot of pundits talking recently about this new role that Trent's got. He's playing as a wing back, but then when we have the ball, he moves into midfield and creates, an additional midfielder. And then from that, he's got 4 assists in the last 3 games. Is that something? The talk is now all over is that Trent might be looking at a new position in midfield going forward, and Liverpool looking to bring in another right back. Do you think that's right for him, or do you think?
I think if the numbers are right, then it's right for him. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's obviously folk at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, etc., who know a hell of a lot more about the intricacies of football than I do. And if they think that that's going to suit him and he's maybe stagnating a bit, I think it would be safe to say that in the last 12 to 18 months, he's came in for a fair amount of criticism. I really like Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he is still the best right back in the country when he's on his game. He's absolutely unbelievable. But if they maybe think he's stagnating a bit, his career's maybe going backwards, and a new role can maybe help that. And if we're talking about him and getting his numbers up, etc., and yes, of course, I think that can only be a good thing for him. But I think for Liverpool, it's important to have somebody like Trent firing on all cylinders, regardless.
I think people need to get out of their head that the full-backs should just stand next to the centre halves and clear the ball away and wait for the ball to come into their own half. It's no 1960 anymore. Right, the game has gone far too much. The full-backs in the model for the top teams in the world, the onus is on the full-backs to join the attack and get the attack going. It's almost a bonus if they can defend it. It's pretty much 15, 20 years ago, we would see wingers track back and try and support. But that's, and there's Jack's even agreeing with me for Jamie's end. There's obviously there is an element they need to be a baseline defender. And I think he's no covered himself in glory, but his biggest role in that Liverpool team is to get the ball forward and get going. And I actually think that role with him playing through the middle, that's what Liverpool have been lacking a wee bit. Liverpool have focusing on what they've maybe done the last couple of years and having width. We've not really seen them playing through the lines as much. With Trent stepping in, it's actually added something that Liverpool haven't had. So I actually think it's probably mutual. It's a mutual benefit with maybe re-energising Trent and adding that edge that Liverpool don't have.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's kind of twofold. We've a victim of our own success a little bit because Trent and Robertson, they've been so successful over the last 2-3 years in the role that they play. They kind of redefine the wing back role a little bit of how forward they get. The numbers alone is absolutely mental. I think was it the other week Andy Robertson got an assist, and that meant he has more assists than Eden Hazard got when he was at Chelsea. That's crazy when we think about what quality player Eden Hazard was. So they do redefine it. Trent's ability to defend is not an issue. I think Trent's ability to track his man is probably more the bot that he gets caught out with. A lot of people run in behind him because he's probably focusing on the forward play a little bit. I don't believe he becomes a shit defender overnight. I think he's just going through a stage of where he's kind of not redefining himself, but just kind of getting comfortable on what is expected of him again. But I think it's good. Graham said it. It's good when it works. I think Trent going into the middle and adding the 5th spot is fine. But when it becomes a defensive, when you're up against a Man City, you kind of want your defenders to be on top game, and that's where the challenge will be.
You're spot on with the concentration, but it's no his ability to tackle or to time a challenge or to win a duel or whatever. It is a concentration, and I think we forget he's been about for a bit. He broke into the Liverpool team really early. He's only 24.
Yeah, he was 19 when he joined.
He has his best years ahead of him. This
Mhm.
is, this is just a blip, and it is. He just has to get that spark again. But it's absolutely his concentration that lets him down.
Cool. Okay, bring us on to the next one, and arguably one of the stories of the weekend. Newcastle 6, Spurs 1. Pretty much done and dusted within the first 20 minutes. I don't think anybody's seen that score coming. I actually had Newcastle for a win on my curtain, but no way did I think they were going to be 5-0 up in 20 minutes. That was a mental score. Graham, what's your thoughts on that?
Exactly what you've just said. It was mental. No one sees that. No one sees that coming. I've worked with a Newcastle one who called that a miracle earlier on, and who's watched the highlights 4 or 5 times since. And obviously, you don't blame him. There's nothing better than when your team has a result like that and you watch it back and back. But listen, it was ludicrous to get rid of Conte and keep his assistant anyway. I think after the Bournemouth result as well, the decision to now get Ryan Mason is the correct one. Yesterday was an embarrassment, and you've just got to feel for the Tottenham fans. You know what I mean? You travel from London up to Newcastle to see your team, and just capitulate. So I don't know. I've not heard it or read it, but I mean it'd be a good gesture maybe to one of those refund the fans for the travelling fans, for example, because that was, it was embarrassing. But by the way, just to say, Harry Kane, man, amazing. You're 5-0 down after 20 minutes, 5-0 at half time, and he still pops up with what is a class goal with a class finish. I mean, he is unbelievable, man. He's so good. Just your team is playing so honking. It's an embarrassment, but you still get yourself out of the pitch, turn your man, and you drill it into the bottom corner. Like, he's class.
Colin, there's been a few excuses that I've heard today for the Spurs performance, and one of them is there's no leaders. I kind of don't buy that when you've got an England captain, Denmark captain, France captain, all in the first 11. What do you think kind of went wrong yesterday? Was it the tactics? Was it individuals? Was it just one of the games?
One of the games where it's a wee bit of everything. There's leaders in that Spurs dressing room. It's just there's not a leadership if you like. There's not a unit that they aren't. There's no cohesion right there, and I don't think the turnover in managers and, as Graham says, the wrong appointment in managers is helping that. There's no, they are. I know it's cliche, but they aren't playing as a team, and there's nothing really. You can tell they don't really see what their purpose is in terms of their style of play, or they need to go away in a fucking away day, man. Go like hill diving or something, or like cave diving or something. Sorry, man. It's one of the weekend retreats they need, and a big boot up the arse as well is what they need. Before we were speaking, I had to ask you who the fuck this new guy was. In terms of, he's just a Graham Murty of Spurs. That's not going to help either. It is just it's a team just absolutely bereft of confidence. No leadership at all. And that would come from the management. It is very difficult. We're saying these captains on the pitch, it's very difficult for them to take charge of a club's identity. They don't really have that.
I'll give you a stat. So
you love a stat, by the way.
I love a stat. 2016, Newcastle 5, Tottenham 1. Tottenham, from that starting 11, 5 of them played in yesterday's game. From the starting 11 for Newcastle, not a single person. If that doesn't show if that doesn't show, shall we say, a stalemate and a stagnation in team development. I was quite shocked actually to read that there was 5 players in the last time they got beat 5. They had to, they conceded 5 to Newcastle. Kane, Son, Davies, Lloris, and Dyer, all still key elements to that team that we seen yesterday. But yeah, they're having an absolute stinker. I kind of feel sorry for the lad. I think it was it last weekend? Was it Bournemouth? And they took off the lad Davinson Sanchez, who wasn't having a great game, but neither was the rest of them. And you could see the fans, they were venomous to him coming off, like it was all his fault. He did the same yesterday. He took off the lad Saw, 19 years old, and brought on Davinson Sanchez. And the boy Saw was getting absolutely venomously whistled at. You just think, God help whoever that was actually getting brought off. But it probably goes back to the manager's decisions on that team lineup. Pedro Porro, from the clips I've seen, he was absolutely shocking. Wasn't tracking anybody. Perisic, not really a tracker back as well. He's one about going forward. They just set up all over the place for me. I think even Match of the Day were highlighting people like Højbjerg that was actually just trotting back. When they've got 7 Newcastle players running onto the opponent's box. A word on Newcastle, Graham. Where does that fit into the season? Does that kind of top it off for them, or is it just something that they've been threatening to do?
Yeah, I think there's only one thing that will top it off is just making sure they're in the top 4, and I think a win like that yesterday pretty much seals the deal, to be honest. So, look, top 4, it's been a successful season, and they can really build in that. Obviously, it was really impressive. That Willock pass to Isak was sensational. What a finish as well by, we've obviously talked about Isak.
It was De Bruyne-esque, wasn't it, on the outside of the foot, right, whipped it right round.
It was unbelievable, really was. So, and obviously we spoke about Isak before, and the guy really is deadly. His goal rate is going to be phenomenal. He's going to be huge for them in the coming years. So yeah, I think as long as they see it through, nothing stupid, maintain top 4, which I think they pretty much did yesterday, then what a great season, including a cup final. Yeah, they didn't win it, but I do think that sets them up for the next couple of seasons. Making cup finals, Champions League, etc. I think it's really exciting time if you're a Toon army.
And I touch on you obviously mentioned Willock's goal. I was probably more impressed with the Joe Willock pass. See the one he sent it through for Isak on the outside of his boot. It was a quality touch.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Is it not? No, did
Sorry,
I say the goal?
Oh, sorry,
no,
I thought you meant Murphy's goal.
Yeah, no, the pass through Isak was sensational. Yeah, absolutely class. Total quality.
Cool. And then the last game of the weekend was the West Ham game. Graham's waving at me too. Was it? That was West Ham.
You forgot it. Brentford Villa doesn't need spoke about anything.
Oh,
hey,
I totally forgot. I did a Mason, didn't I?
Wouldn't happen.
So obviously West Ham found the shooting boots now, aren't they?
Aye. I'm going to jump in here there, Graham, because it's I want the first shot to speak about this game because you're only here because Bournemouth got beat. I think Mason really banged the drum about David Moyes being one of the managers you want to have in the trenches when you're trying to get a late surge. While I thought they would get that, I didn't see them getting 4 goals. To be honest, I thought that was, especially the way Bournemouth have been playing. I've said this again, Bournemouth have taken the shackles off. They have been quite fun to watch. They've been going for games. Despite that, I didn't see West Ham getting 4 goals in them. It really did surprise me. They played well, taking their goals well. That's a big 3 points for them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Paquette and his goal was brilliant. That big leap, and for the second one. And on Bournemouth, Graham, they seem to be safe now. Would you say, or are they another Wolves for you?
Well, they're 33 points. They're definitely not safe. They're 5 points above the drop. They also have Southampton away in their next game. So I tell you what, if they go and beat Southampton away, if they go and beat Southampton away, fine, they're safe. I'll eat my words. Gary Neal, Bournemouth, fair play. If they beat Southampton away, I'm sure that's probably going to do them. But Southampton win, then again from a neutral perspective, it's just totting up the relegation race, to be honest.
The neutral in me, I mean, as a fellow podder, I really want Graham to be wrong, and I want Bournemouth to absolutely strut Southampton. But I would love 4 or 5 teams to be going in all within a point of each other for the last day of the season. So I would love Southampton to win and hopefully make it a bit more exciting.
Just a full switcheroo, Uno card like that. Boom.
It is one of those things. I mean, we talk about Bournemouth, but thoroughly, if Southampton get beat, I mean, I think a lot of people probably already have them down, to be honest. But look, if that, what a massive game. That'll be a good one. That'll be a good one to watch Thursday. Thursday, 8:15. I'll definitely be tuning into that.
Be your Southampton top on.
No, I'm a play up Pompey, for God's sake. Wash your mouth out with soap.
And just on the Villa Brentford, it was a finish one each. From what I seen, Brentford was much the better team, which kind of surprised me. I thought Villa would have went in there a lot more stronger and looked to have been lucky to come away with a draw. Colin, what was your thoughts on that?
I was quite surprised by the run of form that Villa have been on, and Brentford have kind of dipped the last few weeks. So I was surprised to see Brentford look so aggressive and take the game so much to Villa, and Villa not really combating it much. But it's that start that Unai Emery, he's like unbeaten in the last 15 games or something against English managers. So obviously Thomas Frank has caught him off guard there. It's a decent point for both of them, but I think it's they're both. With Villa's form, Brentford probably would have taken a point. With Villa going away on the road as well, with a team round about them taking a point as well. I think it's, they're both probably happy with that, or they would have been happy with it before the game.
Yeah, I think if Villa are going to be serious about a European run, then they've got bigger games coming up. Go on, Graham.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. See minus Wolves. See the remaining games. They've got Fulham at home, Man U away, Tottenham at home, Liverpool away, and Brighton at home. I mean, that is quite literally every single team, one or two places
around them.
I think, if they continue in the form they're in, which has been unbelievable, that they're in the top 4 since the turn of Christmas, I reckon they'll get 5th. I think 4th is just too big a reach for them now.
You think they'll finish 5th?
I think they could finish 5th if they continue.
Did you say they will? Are you going on your hill?
I'm not saying no. I'll not be going on my hill for that
one. He has to be in. Well, he's definitely in contention, but he's my shout for manager of the year. I know he joined what was it, just before halfway through or whatever. He has to be manager of the year for me, or at least a strong contender.
I think if Ten Hag, I mean, it's hard.
Don't even dare.
I mean, if he bags a double and finishes top 4 and all that, how can you say that's not been?
He's not bagging a double.
He can't get shredded 7-1.
But see, you can't get beat 7-0. That's mental.
Aye, that's just
you can't get beat 7-0 in one game and not win. Like, I think he'd be shortlisted if he won a double.
He'll be shortlisted because he finished top 4. But that embarrassment against Sevilla, I know we're coming on to a European game, but he come out and he said after that was the worst game we played this season. Yet you've already lost 7-0, and you're like, what? That makes no sense at all.
It's one of those. I don't know if the thingies, the draws done or whatever it is, the votes are made before the end of the season. But I'm just saying, if you win a double, I mean a fucking double, a cup double, and you finish top 4 and you get into the Champions League,
he's winning the same amount as what Liverpool have won this season. That's 1 cup. Yes, I'm counting the Charity Shield at that.
I was racking my brains there, man. I was like, has there been some sort of fucking friendly tournament in Dubai over Christmas?
The Darwin Núñez Cup we renamed at the beginning of the season.
Unai Emery gets my shout for the Gallant Fuse manager.
It'll be Pep. It'll be Pep or Ten Hag. Likely Pep.
No, it'll be Pep.
bags in that
It'll
treble,
be
man.
Pep and Eddie. It'll be Pep and Eddie Howe in that order, in my opinion.
Of course, but Eddie Howe, top 4 Newcastle, yeah, great cup final. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe a Howe, Ten Hag, Pep, but I thought Pep will run away with it all day long. Let's face it. Although we are just forgetting Arteta for Arsenal in the league. What do we know, really? What do we know, man? Let's just go through the whole list. Let's just go through the whole list. It'll be Dean Smith if he keeps playing.
Roy
Gary
Hodgson
O'Neill if he keeps playing with it.
See, on the managers, I kind of put some side by side to kind of call it. There's obviously a bit of a merry-go-round going on at the moment, and I think we've already touched on the Spurs managerial role. The Spurs one looks as though it's been announced this evening that Ryan Mason's going to take over till the end of the season, which means that they're still interviewing people. I don't get really that at all. But the other one is the Chelsea managerial situation. I think what was more surprising for that is that Nagelsmann stepped away from talks and they pulled out of talks with Luis Enrique. That's arguably two of the best managers on the market right now, in terms of world quality, in my opinion. What's your thoughts on that, Graham? That they could end up with Pochettino?
I think Pochettino, for me, I think they'd have been as well keeping Graham Potter, in my honest opinion, till the end of the season, and then gave him a shot. Look, I get at the time we're like, yeah, it was the right decision, but it's only the right decision if you're not then bringing Frank Lampard back and then going for Pochettino, who, by the way, has achieved as much in England as Graham Potter or Frank Lampard, which is nothing. So, look, wild. I do agree. I think Nagelsmann slightly overrated. I don't think he covered himself in glory at Bayern. I do like Luis Enrique. I think he would have potentially been a really good fit for Chelsea. So yeah, that's maybe a bit of a surprise. Who knows? He might end up at Tottenham. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think Pochettino really, even at PSG, look, I get he won the league and all that in the cup. I think I could win a league and cup double at PSG though.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest with you, so I think it's a poor one. I wouldn't be overly enamoured if I'm a Chelsea fan, to be honest.
Yeah, it does scream, the amount of superstars that they buy in the last 6 months that they can't buy a superstar manager. That's the bit that, as a headline, I feel like it just stands out for me. Colin, what's your thoughts on it? I know obviously you've not got much affiliation with Chelsea, but in terms of this merry-go-round with the managerial situation, was there anybody that you thought they might have had a look at, or?
I think I've said in the last few weeks where I'm not surprised that a big name manager not taking up the mantle at Chelsea, because these guys who we're speaking about, Enrique, and
Nagelsmann.
I always mispronounce it, man. They're in the conversation for the best managers in the world, and you don't become the best managers in the world by going to an absolute basket case of a club, and that's what Chelsea are. It's not just your ability as a manager that's tested. It's your patience of the circus that goes around you and what's going on above you upstairs, and you can be flung under the bus at any time. The carpet can be pulled underneath your feet at any time. When you've got the pick of the litter, any job going in the world, why would you take that, Chelsea? I'm not surprised. So I don't realistically see them getting somebody of that calibre. I don't know. I think you might have mentioned this a few weeks ago, and it's kind of, the more I thought about it, Jamie, Zidane. I think I could see him being in the conversation, just because it's like, obviously he's won big trophies at Real Madrid, but he's probably not seen in that elite calibre. But I think Chelsea can be quite similar to Real Madrid, where it's the glamour and everything that goes around you, and he is. Yeah. In terms of the managers on the market, and at that level, he's probably the most glamorous name. He's Ballon d'Or winner. He's one of the players of his generation, and he's a half-decent manager as well. So I wonder if that's maybe a move for him. I think he's probably got a wee bit less leeway than the other two, that Chelsea might appeal to him, and that might be Chelsea's level.
Graham, on the Tottenham, or do Tottenham just pick up what Chelsea don't take?
I mean, I'm sure they won't see it like that.
No, I bet they don't.
I think specifically Enrique, I would be surprised if he took Tottenham. I think right now you've got Chelsea and Tottenham, who are two clubs with clearly a lot of problems going on inside, right?
Two very different projects as well.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's so much like the Conde's outburst for one, and then all this stuff in the media about guys getting ready and in their scants and the tunnels
Changes
and
into
all
the
that,
tunnel.
and hit Chelsea. Like, I just mean I don't know if any managers right now are really going to want to go that. So doesn't surprise me that Chelsea and I think Tottenham will be the same if they're going to end up with a third or fourth choice managers. Pochettino, if it is for Chelsea, definitely not their first choice. And I think Tottenham might go the same way. I'll be surprised if they got an Enrique, but I think it would be a really great appointment for them. But then I thought Conte would be as well.
Two names that have been mentioned for the Tottenham shortlist are Post from Big Ange from Celtic and recently promoted Vincent Kompany. Would you be surprised to see any of those guys take up the opportunity?
Yeah, I would.
Colin?
I really would. Oh, sorry,
No,
Colin.
sorry, no, go on.
Well, do you know what? I think I would be surprised. I honestly think, see it again and again, because at Tottenham, the way they are, the stuff that's going on. But see, when you look at their squad and how talented it is, I honestly think Brendan Rodgers would do a really good job there. People might shoot me down for that, but it's really hard to ignore how often people say what an amazing coach he is. And I think that putting everything else aside, what's going on at Tottenham, I think he would potentially get a really good tune out of them. But what do I know?
But my issue with Tottenham is kind of similar to Chelsea, where that is quite an off-putting job for a different reason for Chelsea, because there's a disparity for where Tottenham see themselves and where they actually are. I think I think Daniel, maybe unfair saying Tottenham is a club and an identity, but Daniel Levy sees himself as challenging for the Champions League and going realistically for the Premier League in the next couple of years. I think he's got that level of arrogance. So you've got to go for that level of manager. That level of manager doesn't see Tottenham in the same conversation. So it wouldn't surprise me if Tottenham do approach a couple of elite level managers and they do end up with a fourth or fifth pick, and it might be Brendan Rodgers. I don't see Tottenham approaching them straight away, because again, that level of arrogance where they see themselves, they don't want to be seen to be taking somebody who's just led Leicester into the relegation zone and then left. They'll look for a higher calibre in their eyes, but I think Graham is right. Going back to what we spoke about, Tottenham, they need a bit of cohesion. They need an identity. They need coached, and Brendan Rodgers would do that.
I think
I never see the draw of Brendan Rodgers, and I can only obviously call that from his time at Liverpool and what I've seen since. I never see the appeal of the man at all. But obviously, as you say, players that work with him kind of call out the traits that he has.
I think as well, when I'll be honest, the hype around Vincent Kompany as well, I would be surprised when any of the bigger clubs come for him. I personally think, yeah, he's done a good job at Burnley, but I mean, when you look at what he did at Anderlecht, I think it was very, very
Average.
below average, actually. Didn't win anything 3 years at Anderlecht.
He finished at the Champions League 2 of those years as well.
Like, I think the job he did, and actually when he got the job at Burnley, I thought, yeah, they're going to be pissed this season. But okay, yeah, he's done well. He surprised me. He's got them playing really good football. But I really think that the bigger clubs will be wanting to see what he does in the Premier League with Burnley before really moving for him. I think he still needs to prove himself at least 1 or 2 seasons. And I think he owes that to Burnley as well.
Yeah. I think any neutral, would want to see Vinny stay at Burnley going into the Premier League just to see how he gets on. But see if a team like Tottenham come knocking, I think it's too big of a team to ignore for him. I think he's destined to be, sworn in at Manchester City at some point in his career, just the same as Gerrard is at Liverpool about 10 years from now. But it'll all about what his legacy is building into there. I'm with you. He was very, very average or below average, depending on what you would say when he was at Anderlecht. He took a lot of the British people over there with him, and he still got them with him at Burnley. I think they just know the Championship a little bit better than what they did. The Belgian First League. But I think he's got great relationships with people like Craig Bellamy and stuff. They're on his coaching team. I'd like to see how they get on within the time within the Premier League. Burnley have always got that danger of coming up and being the next Southampton, haven't they? Just sitting in that bottom three for the majority, and then he loses all his stock. I'd be surprised if Tottenham did go for somebody like him, but it's just a name that's obviously bandied around by the media because it's a quick, easy punt into at the moment.
It's an easy headline, isn't it?
Yeah.
You mentioned Postecoglou there, Jamie, and this might not be to probably the listeners. He's not in the conversation with it for the Tottenham job for me. I think he'll have a serious approach for whether teams stay up. See the teams we're talking about in the dogfight. I think we all agree that Sean Dyche might not be the Everton manager next year. I think he has the conversation for these types of clubs because there's whether people will argue how much has been aided by Rangers' performance. He's came up and he's done well. Right? There's no getting away from that, and a good progressive style of football. I think he is in the conversation for the clubs in the bottom 10. Maybe not if he isn't for the summer. When somebody inevitably gets sacked 15 minutes into the first game, then it would maybe be somebody that they look to.
I promise you, there's a guy in work that you'll know, Colin, and we had the same conversation. Yeah, we had the same conversation a week ago, and he swears that Postecoglou will be taking over from Pep because of the links of the City group, and I'm like, you're an absolute cloud nine. But he was so serious about that, and I'm like, right, that's just mental. Like, you're full of crap.
I'm taking over for Ali McCoy's next season in TalkSport as well, and just while we're at it.
I went for a shite just to get out of the conversation. I was like, this is terrible. I'm like, shut up. I don't mind good banter, but come on. Like, I know he's doing a good job, but like to say we could go to City after on the back of that, nah, I'd be very, very surprised at that one. Cool. So we've got a quick turnaround. We've got midweek games. These are the games that are that have been flung in because of the World Cup, obviously, that was on and it kind of took up the majority of the winter time. The standout fixture is the Manchester City Arsenal game, which is on. I think it's Wednesday night. It's on at 8:00. So it's obviously a biggie for what we've already been talking about. Let's get a couple of predictions in. Graham, what's your thoughts?
Realistically,
no fence, come on.
I think there will be. I think there'll be goals. I really don't think. I don't think we're going to see a surprise. I think the league's going to be done by Wednesday because Man City are going to win. I think they might win maybe 3 or 4-1.
Colin?
It's one of the ones. It's your head versus your heart, isn't it? Listen, I think unless it's a draw, the league's done on Wednesday. If one team gets the 3 points, I see that 3 points re-energising Arsenal, and they'll know that's last chance to win, that they need to go on a run, and they've overcome the biggest hurdle. Man City, if they win, they'll choose continue doing what they're doing right now and choose absolutely steamrolling folk. So it is the title decider as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
This is it. And this is it. Arsenal now playing with pressure.
Yeah.
Look, they draw at Anfield. In essence, I know they went 2-0 up, but it's still a good point. Any point at Anfield's a good point. The league, they've shot themselves in the foot. We chucked them with a 2-goal lead away to West Ham and drawn at home at bottom of the table, Southampton. I mean, you win those games, 4 extra points. You can go away to Man City and actually afford to lose. No pressure. You could have actually maybe seen Arsenal pulling off a result. It's the pressure, and we talked about how young their team is, and how much they all want this. I think when you look at the last, Liverpool's one thing, but let's include that game. When you look at those last 3 games, they've dropped 6 points. They've chucked away 2-goal leads. I think obviously it's shown that this team don't cope well under pressure, and I think that's why actually Man City might just turn them over. Whereas if they'd went in without pressure, I could have really seen, you would then think, yeah, they could cause a surprise here.
But it's a different type of pressure, and while Man City are massively favourites, I'm not going to doubt that. There's a different type of pressure for stopping the team behind you for catching you and keeping that gap to actually going out and laying it all on the line and beating the team who your direct opponents for the title. It's almost like a cup final. It's a different type of mentality, which I think we will see a different Arsenal. I don't think, regardless of the result.
Colin, I'm not going to lie, this is the longest give me a score answer I've had from you. I'm still waiting on you give me a score.
Hold on.
What you give me? Come on.
Jamie Royals, old Jamie, 2-hour conversation on Liverpool. Royals is fucking nipping me in the bud. Jesus, what
Mason
a ton of
text me and went,
events.
tell him what's the score? What's the score going to be?
We'll talk about U-turns in the league. What a ton of events in this podcast. It won't be a same goal. I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal.
Okay. I'm with Graham. I'm going to go 5-1. I think they absolutely batter them, and then I think Arsenal will lose points against Newcastle the game after, and then I think Chelsea turn it around and do them as well. I think it'll end up being a 6-point lead or something within the next 2 weeks or something. I'm sure I read as well the other day that Arsenal, if they don't win the league, will be the longest team serving at the top of the league that don't actually win the league. The amount of days. So I think it goes back to the game management. I don't think you can game manage teams like City. So yeah, I'm going to go 5-1. Haaland hat-trick. I think he'll just turn them on. I think Pep leaves them on for longer than 45 minutes this time, just to see them off. But as ever, guys, we've obviously run through the games, and we've got a quick prediction in for the next set of games. There will be another set of fixtures come by the time we next get our next pod in, and hopefully we'll have Mason back, which means Colin then can get back on his perch and tell me to shut up. But as ever, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you in a week time.